Today's video is all about the Samyang VAF 1.7 anamorphic adapter, this thing here. It's pretty big and I'm going to talk all about it. But before I do, let's put it on the lens now. So here it is on the camera now. It's a bit hard to tell if I'm fully in focus because it has such a shallow depth of field. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop it down to T2.8 and hopefully that give me a little bit of play. So here it is at 1.8. Let's stop it down to T2.8. So here it is at T2.8. Hopefully I'll be a bit more in focus. And to be honest, I think the sweet spot for this is probably about T4, T5.6. So this is on the Samyang anamorphic adapter. I'm on the 35mm lens now, but you can use it on the 35, the 45, the 75 and the 100mm lens. In the series there's also a 24mm. You can use it on that, but you get heavy vignetting on the sides, but I will show you what it's like on 24mm at full frame and then cropped. And there's a 20mm, which pretty much at that point it's not really worth using an anamorphic adapter on a lens that wide, and I don't have the 20mm lens to test it. This mounts on the front of your lens. When it connects to some electronic points. And with the electronic points, what the anamorphic lens can do, when you pull focus, it can then change the focus within the connecting lens, say the 35mm as I've got it on now. And then between the two of them, they work together to make the anamorphic adapter focus. It's a manual focus, it's not an autofocus lens, which is a shame. I know everybody would love to have an autofocus anamorphic lens, but it ain't happening yet. It works very well and the pairing does work. You also get a tally light on the front so I can actually see I'm recording right now, which is very handy. I'm sure we've all done it where we thought we were recording something and then we end up we're not recording. Anamorphic lenses will squash the image and then you use your editing software to unsquash it. It used to be they squashed it and then you'd use an anamorphic lens on the front of the projector to unsqueeze it. But nowadays you can do it within your editing program. When you shine a light source on this, it will flare, something like my phone, and I can do this and you can see the flaring across the front. You'll see it in a lot of sci-fi movies, but often the flaring will be blue, but this has an amber flare. It is hard to get focus on this lens. It's a really shallow depth of field when you have it at T1.9, so it can be very, very hard to get in focus, hence why I stopped it down to 2.8. And I also think it looks a little bit better as well. When adjusting the focus on this, the focus throw is huge. I forget the exact number, but I'm going to put it on the screen now. But as you turn it to focus, it's a very long way, but again, with such a shallow depth of field, you're going to need that extra just to get in focus, especially on an anamorphic lens. It does have a lot of barrel distortion. Barrel distortion is like the name, it bends it round like this. Top and bottom as well. I took some images of the Thames and you can see where it's really bent up at the sides. It almost looks like it's going into a mountain. A lot of people find that desirable. You're going to get that on a lot of anamorphics. So you're either going to get barrel distortion like this one does, or pinkish where it goes in, and people find that less desirable, to be honest. I've been using this over the last couple of months. I really wanted to get a good feel before I put out this video, so it's been delayed a lot, but I wanted to make sure I was 100% happy with my findings and what I've seen on it so far. Also, I had another problem, but it's not due to the anamorphic adapter. It's something else, but I'll get into that in a minute. It's a very, very heavy adapter. Putting it onto the front of the lens will make your camera front heavy, definitely, I can guarantee that. Do recommend putting it on some kind of tripod with some kind of support on there if you can, maybe some kind of lens support. It's not likely to break if you don't, but I always feel better doing things like that. If you're going to put it on a tripod for long periods of time, if it's a few minutes, I won't worry about it too much. I did also try it on a gimbal, and I'll show you the results now. So I put it on. I knew it wouldn't balance. There's no way this was going to balance. It's way too front heavy. But I thought I'd try the motors, see what happens. And as you can see, it doesn't really work. The gimbal is an older gimbal. It's a Zion Weeble S. So it's not the newest gimbal, it's a good few years old. Just something to be aware of. If you've got one of the smaller gimbals or a slightly older gimbal, it's not likely to work with this anamorphic lens. It's going to be way too heavy. These are the negatives. So if you're trying to record something and you don't really want to look too conspicuous, it does stand out. But on the other hand, that can be a positive as well, and I'll put a note of that in my positive comments, that sometimes you want it to stand out. So this adapter can take a little bit of time to get used to. It's got a 1.7 squeeze, which actually is probably too much, as it's on a 16:9 sensor, so that's going to push it right out. I've deliberately used in this video at its full width a lot of the time, just to show how far it can go. But if you're going to do 2.39 or 2.4 anamorphic squeeze, bring it in a little bit. So you're going to find some of the edges cut off, and that might not quite be what you want when you're aiming to set up a shot. And I do wish Sony would give us some more in-camera anamorphic options, such as 1.3 squeeze, 1.5, even a 1.5 I could use just to get a basic idea of what I want. But this is definitely one of those lenses you're 99% probably better off using a monitor. It's possible, but it's very hard to get things in focus. I'm using a monitor now, and even that's quite hard to get it in focus. There's some very obvious colour fringing with this. Sometimes I get blue streaks on it as well, which is a bit strange. Been using this a lot outside, and you haven't got any screws on the front to mount any filters of any kind, especially ND filters when using it out in bright sunshine. So there's two ways around that. In the camera, that's either stop it right down, or it is to put a matte box on the front, and I don't really want to go out in public and shoot with a matte box. It's not perfect, but a lot of the shots I did in slow motion, so you get that kind of nice in between, because I've speeded up the shutter speed and I don't need to drop down the f-stop or t-stop too much, so you can see what it's like with more of a shallower depth of field than me recording at f or t10. Keep getting confused between f-stops and t-stops. T-stops, if you don't know already, is the amount of light that actually hits the center, and f-stops is a calculation between the diameter of the front of the lens and how much light should go through it. Apart from the basic problems I've listed there, where I've some colour fringing, expect that. The amount of throw on the lens, that's alright, it's not too bad, something I can get used to. It's heavy, kind of expect that on an anamorphic lens anyway, so no different on an anamorphic adapter. And basically this is more than an adapter, it turns your lens into an anamorphic lens. I used it on the 35, 45 and 75mm lens, but I had a problem with the 75mm lens. I noticed when I'm filming, the right of the image is blurry and out of focus with the rest of the image. So I'd gone out, tested it a few times, I came back and I noticed it, and I thought, what's going on here? What's causing this? So I went out, filmed again, same thing. And on Sony cameras, you've got a thing called focus mapping, where in front of the image, it will show an orange colour. The image, you'll be able to see it on screen, and behind the image, it will show a blue or purple colour, depending how far back it is. Now, I noticed I was getting most of the image in focus to about here, like up to 2/3 of the screen, and then from a third, maybe a little bit less, it was starting to go out of focus. So I tried different things. I even tried shimming the front of the 75mm lens, so I think it's definitely, or almost definitely, one of the elements inside. I am going to replace the 75mm, and if I get it in time, I'll put a note in this video to say whether that fixed it. I replaced the 75mm lens, went out, tested it, and it looks like that didn't fix it. As you can see here, still warping on the right hand side for roughly 1/3 of the image. Bit disappointed. I think it's to do with the adapter, but I don't know quite what's causing it. I've tested various different things, but still getting the same results. I'm hoping it can be fixed with software, but I don't really know how. But it's strange how the 35mm and 45mm isn't affected, but as soon as you jump to 75, it is. So whether it's a problem with the lens and the adapter, or something to do with the electronics, I'm not too sure. But these are the results. I'll update probably in a further video if I have any more information. Very much a shame, because The image is absolutely beautiful. Something I have noticed, it's not all the time, it's only various focal lengths, mostly when you go to affinity or near affinity. When you do close up, it seems to affect it a lot less, even to the point of not noticing it at all. I'd like to try it on 100mm as well, just see if you get the same thing, if it's something to do with a greater range of focal length. I don't know. Bit upsetting though. But that's what I hold up this video. I really wanted to double check everything. As you can see from the images here, you do get quite a lot of focus breathing, and that's with all the lenses. But to be honest, with vintage anamorphics such as Panasonic C series, you get a lot of focus breathing anyway, so I'm not too bothered about that. The lenses, you get slight focus breathing anyway, but I think with the adapter on you can really see it. Something to be aware of, when close focusing, the squeeze will be about 1.5 rather than 1.7. This is due to the way the anamorphic adapter is made. I think the correct term is synchrofocus. Also, if you notice where I'm moving my hands here, the right hand side of the screen is not affected by that anomaly, so when it's close focusing it looks fine. Let's talk about some of the positives. This is a really nice image. It is really nice. It's like most anamorphic lenses, it reminds you of a movie. And I'm going to call this a lens, even though it's an adapter, it works with the lens to make it one lens. So the 35mm as it is now, and you don't have to buy lots of really expensive lenses. You can buy the other lenses and adapt each one as you go along, which is great. The image is nice. It's not the sharpest image unless you stop it down, and then you get a really nice sharp image. But I grew up on movies from the 80s, so you're Indiana Jones, Star Wars, E.T., all those kind of movies where they used lenses but they stopped them down, probably a lot of them to about f8. I'm not saying do that, but f4, f5.6, as I said at the beginning of the video, is a real good sweet spot for this lens. You get a nice sharp image, you get more in focus, but you still get some of the blurry background, and you'll get that real nice movie-like image. It's got some really nice bokeh. You get the nice oval bokeh balls. Probably not so much here on the 35mm, but once you go up to the 45 and 75 and definitely the 100, you get that nice oval kind of shape bokeh, and who doesn't like a nice oval bokeh ball? The 1.7 times squeeze, and it's better than having a 1.33 like some of the other lenses, or even 1.5, because you get more of that anamorphic look, and it has lovely bokeh in my opinion anyway. So the flares look cool. I love the flares. The footage I took where I was on the train and I filmed the sun going in between some buildings, and you've got in between the different buildings, you've got that nice little poof from the flares, which is really nice, but it's not too over the top. When you're using it, it does look like a pro lens. It's big, it's chunky. Even though you're using two lenses, when they come together, it just turns into one lens, which is, I think, a really good solution to having an adapter, having a nice lens set. But also, if you want it to be fully anamorphic, it's great. The front of the lens, that will do your focus, and then just flick a switch, and the back of the lens, that can be for your aperture. And very easy to use as well. Even the electronics are great on it. The way the tail light at the front, that works really, really well. Going down to T1.9, you have that option. So if you're recording somewhere at night or with low light, this gives you that option. But if you want to stop it down to T4, you can do that. So you have those options, rather than it starting at, say, f3.2 or something like that, or T3.2, like a lot of older anamorphics will do. You've got that option. You can go right down, have lots of low light, or you can go to a nice medium level and have, to be honest, a sharper image. So I hope I covered everything there. I've put up a load of images I took with this. I've really enjoyed using it. Even though it is quite heavy, I could still put it in a shoulder bag, pull it out and film things, put it back again. I've tried this on the Sony a7 IV and the ZV-1. Both cameras it works really well on. It's a shame it's not autofocus, but sometimes it's nice to have that feel of a manual focus. It is nice to have that option though, to be autofocus, and as I said, with the shallow depth of field it would make your life a lot easier, but hey, you'd be spending a lot more money I presume. But overall, fun adapter to use. You can use it in many circumstances, and it literally does turn your lens into an anamorphic lens. It's put it on the front, they work together, it clips on so it's not just going to fall off or unscrew. Works really well. Heavy as hell, but it works really well. So yeah, I would recommend it. Look into what you're doing before you get it. Look at the size of it, because it is a big chunky thing, but if it's something you think you can work with, I think it is well worth it. Samyang is known as a cheaper lens brand, and I can see why sometimes, but these lenses make a really nice image. I think they're worth the money. Very good for video. Yeah, I really like it. Totally recommend this. Even with all the problems with the 75mm, I would still recommend it. To be honest, it's probably just a one-off with this one. But if you can get past that one problem, it's a really lovely image. And looking at other YouTube reviews, I haven't seen the same problem. I think it is independent to me, but it's still good to know. That's why I put this out there. Yeah, any questions, please put them in the comments below and I'll try and answer any. Sorry this one took a little while to come out. We'll be quicker next time, but I really wanted to test this one fully. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Thank you. Bye bye.